Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Kill Your Spreadsheet with Org Charts, which is an introduction to planning at work. So the point of today's webinar, I guess, is to give all of you an overview of what planning at work does and how you can use a visual tool like planning at work to replace your spreadsheets for all of your HR reporting, analytics, restructures, all of that side of things. So just a little bit of housekeeping just to start off with. So you can hear us, but we can't hear you. So if you do have any questions, all you need to do is type those questions into the Q&A panel. So that button will be either at the top or the bottom of the screen, depending on which operating system you're on. So if you type those in, we'll either answer them during the webinar, or we've got a bit of time set aside for the very end where we'll go through them all as well. Okay, so presenting today, we have Grant Cumming, who's our org charting specialist. He's also the sales manager for planning at work. So he's worked with a lot of customers basically using planning at work for the purposes he's going to show today. So I'll just be emceeing the event and just helping with running the webinar. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Grant.
All right, hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. So today we'll be taking you for a tour through our cloud-based enterprise visualization tool, which is called Planning at Work. And we'll show you just how easy it is to distribute your HR data in a visual yet very easy to understand way. So to start with, let's start with a quick recap of the two charting solutions that we work with. So firstly, OrgPlus Desktop. So Desktop is a tool to create org charts automatically from a data source with a reporting structure. So that data source could be an HR system, could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be a payroll system. So it enables you to create basic workforce analytics views from the metrics stored within your data source, and to also apply conditional formatting and calculated formulas to these metrics. So sharing is manual, and it's you can publish your charts to PDF, PowerPoint, Excel, or the recommended approach is to actually save these charts to the native OrgPlus format, which is an OPX type file, and then there is a free viewer which you can utilize to actually view those charts. So OrgPlus Desktop is a great solution for organizations from around 50 staff to around 500 staff. Planning at Work, on the other hand, is a cloud-based enterprise tool. It offers all of the functionality of OrgPlus, but also adds a centralized security management area, which enables automated sharing and socializing of your charts. It also offers a much more modern, easy-to-use user interface, with new functionality being added in each new release. And also, Planning at Work being an enterprise tool also offers some additional modules, which we'll have a look at today. These include Plan a Model for what-if scenarios and restructure planning, a succession planning module to visualize your succession plans using the hierarchical view, and also an archive and compare module for viewing historical views of the organization. So any organization from around 500 staff upwards will benefit from the workflow and functionality offered. But in saying this, our smallest customer using Planning at Work is currently charting around 300 employee positions. So Planning at Work can be described as a window into your HRIS data. Planning at Work enables you to integrate directly with your HR source of truth. So how many members of your organization currently see your HR information system as a mysterious black box? Well, Planning at Work brings this HR data to life using your organization reporting structure as the foundation to display this information, giving a 360-degree view of your entire workforce, which your entire organization has the potential to benefit from. So much like a shop window, it puts this information on display and makes it more readily available to the different audiences that you have in your organization and their respective requirements. So using a centralized administration area, you're able to securely automate who has on-demand access to what information and or company region through their respective login or single sign-on details. So what you end up with is a fully secure, automated workflow from your source of truth to your end user. So when you bring your HR data into Planning at Work, you are not limited as to what information will be represented on your chart. So Planning at Work offers this concept of different views for different purposes. If you have performance data, you can have a chart view for this purpose, or if you have budget data, you may want to represent this information, which we have done in the example on screen. You are also able to use visual alarms or visual formatting to color code items of interest or concern. So in this example, at a glance, you are able to see that Glenn Finley has a budget issue as his record details are colored red. All conditional formats and calculated formulas have completely configurable parameters and can be edited at any time by an administrator. So you are only limited by the fields you can extract from your data source as to what sort of views or insights you can build within Planning at Work. So this shop window environment is very interactive. You have the ability to perform data mining activities, advanced search capabilities, and as you interact with the solution, rather than just being limited to seeing information in the chart boxes themselves, you can also see them in the profile card as well. In fact, a great use case for the profile card is to include calculated formulas to any metrics-based field. So in this example on screen, we have used the profile card to roll up budget information based on the position highlighted and its respective reports. So what you end up with is an environment where all of your HR data is being funneled and visualized in the one place. So once you have this environment set up for visual reporting, you can then use this tool to analyze this HR data better. So we're talking about HR metrics in the context of the reporting structure. So here is a perfect example of this where at a glance we can see our spans and layers, compare our headcount to our full-time equivalent, and even use visual alarms where there may be an issue with company balance. Because we have the reporting structure in play, it means that any particular person in the organisation, whether this be an HR consultant or a line manager, can see the regional perspective of these important metrics from their point of view without having to go and run a separate report for it. Or if you do not have an HR information self-service module, usually this will be a task requested from someone within HR, which usually means a delay in obtaining this information and is also taking your HR team away from higher payoff activities. So Planning at Work really gives true on-demand access to this information and makes it much easier to understand due to the reporting structure foundation it is presented on. So different parts of your organisation can start to ask and also answer key questions regarding your workforce. Multiple metrics, one environment, all on demand and at your fingertips, with no one having to lift a finger because it is all automated. So once you have your visual foundation, what can you do with it? So if you need to perform a restructure, one of the most time-consuming activities is to set up a baseline or a current snapshot of the organisation. So what you have with Planning at Work is improved agility with having this foundation available immediately. The charting environment within Planning at Work can be brought into a sandpit area, which is an optional module called Plan and Model. There we can manipulate. So rather than it being in the shop window where we can look but cannot touch, we can now take the data and bring it into a what-if scenario environment. So that means we can collaborate with planners and design teams in HR and easily come up with variations on plans and restructures. There's also a useful tool for financial planning and mergers and acquisitions. So let's have a look at how this works. Okay, so in our first scenario, we will perform a merge of the accounts payable and receivable departments, and we'll show how easy it is to quickly visualize structure changes. We will also look at how we can utilise pre-built metrics-based views, which we've already discussed, and to validate this restructure. So we've decided that there is no longer a requirement to have two separate departments in accounts. We also have two top performers in this team, so we want to make sure they have been rewarded for their hard work with some extra responsibility. The desired end result is a more collaborative accounts department with our top performers being rewarded. So Planner Model adds an additional standard list to our lists area, which is called a staging area. The staging area is where we can put employees on ice, so to speak, so that they are easily accessible and ready to use later in our restructure. So in this scenario, we're not too sure who our high performer Greg, our analyst, should be reporting to, so we will put him in the staging area for now. Next, we can see based on Bridget's high performance and potential that she could benefit from the extra responsibility of another subordinate. So in this case, Gail Miller is a good candidate, so we will move her across to report to Bridget. Now for the big decision, and that is to make Sue the head of accounts. So we will need to move Bridget across to report to Sue. Notice the intelligent drag and drop functionality that also brings Bridget's subordinates with her. So now that we no longer have a requirement for the split screen, we can now turn this off. And we have not forgotten about our analyst Greg, who is still in the staging area. We have decided that Greg should report directly to Sue. In fact, we've decided that Greg has been doing very well in his role, which has been reflected in his performance and potential scores, so he will manage a team of analysts. But first, we need to give Sue an assistant. So notice on the drop-down menu, you can add managers, subordinates, or assistants on the fly. So once this new assistant role has been created, we now have the option to give this role a description, an identity, and even metrics such as salary information if you have the correct view built. Okay, so with this in mind, we're now going to change the view to the budget view so that we can now validate how our plan will affect budget metrics. So to get an accurate picture, we will need to give our new role some relevant HR information. Notice that when we open the profile window of the new role, only the fields associated with the budget view are available to edit. In this case, we will enter an actual salary and a budgeted salary. So we now need to recalculate the formulas to see how this will affect the team's metrics. When these metrics have been recalculated, any conditional formatting will also change to correspond using the conditional formatting parameters we have included in our budget view. In this example, Isu's box has gone from green, meaning on budget, to red, which means she's now exceeding budget. Right, now back to Greg and his new team of analysts. So the list functionality in Planning at Work allows you to select multiple records. In this case, we're going to select our new subordinate roles. Planner Model allows you to edit the profile information of multiple records at once, which is very handy in this case, as all of the new roles have the same job title and salary metrics. So a very good example where this function could be useful would be for creating a call center, for example, or any team of employees that have same or similar details. So this is a great example of how easy it is to not only visualize your restructure, but to also validate this restructure using pre-built metrics-based views within Planning at Work. So once we have completed our restructure, we can now export our plan to popular formats such as Excel, PDF, or PowerPoint. Notice in this screenshot we have full control over what fields we can include on the export, and also what region of the organization we're going to include on this export as well. So we'll now look at another scenario where we want to discover the impact to our salary budgets if we decided to give all of our managers across the organisation earning 100k plus a 3% pay rise. So to accomplish this, the first thing we need to do is to find our managers who fit this criteria. So once again, using Planning at Work's list functionality, we can build a smart list with the appropriate filters. So once this list has been produced, we can then select all of these fields and edit all of their salary metrics at once. We can turn the salary field into a formula and then multiply this field by 1.03. Once this has been entered and we have recalculated the formulas, our chart will update to show the updated metrics and any associated change in our conditional formatting. Okay, so let's have a look at the succession planning module. The purpose of the succession planning module is to use the hierarchical view in Planning at Work to visualize your succession plans. So once again, starting with an up-to-date org chart is certainly the preferred approach. The succession planning module allows you to secure your plans within the administration area of Planning at Work, so you have full control over who can view or edit your succession plans. Let's have a look at the additional functionality this module offers. In the example on screen, we're utilizing our talent management view with performance and potential scores included, so that we can use these metrics to find top talent within the organization. To assist with this process, a N-box is included, so that in conjunction with the lists or data mining tool, you're able to easily select who you want to appear in your inbox, and you can then drag and drop your selected successors into the incumbent's record. You can also utilize the profile from the talent management view to give you further insights into the employee, and you are also able to record next moves when you are in edit mode to include other information such as required education for the successor to be ready for the incumbent role. And finally, the archive and compare module. So if we want to be able to look at how the organization looked historically, the archive and compare module will keep an archive of all of your data refreshes, so you are able to access this information quickly. It is just a matter of using the slider tool to select the historical date. So using the split screen functionality, like the example on screen, we can then compare this historical view against the current view or even against other historical views. It is also possible to export a detailed list of these changes and can include any field that has been changed between the defined dates. Very quick, very easy. So Planning at Work also makes a very effective company directory. And because you are able to connect directly to your HR source of truth, this directory will always be up to date. So in this view, we are able to utilize the profile card to include employee contact details, a photo, and of course they get the hierarchy view so they can see where they sit in the organization and have a better understanding of how the organization is structured. So it is easy to restrict fields as well. For example, you may have some personal fields included in the profile, such as home address, personal home or email details, but you may want to restrict this information so that only the user can see this, or if the user is a manager, they can also see their subordinates' details. So this is all centrally managed in the administration area using restriction rules such as self or self and subordinates. And while we're on the subject of using Planning at Work as a company directory, Planning at Work also has a mobile app for iPhones. So this enables you to take your organisational information on the road and provides an instant access to organisational charts and directories. So this application allows you to search for colleagues, to view their contact information, and initiate calls or emails directly from your mobile device, and you're also able to navigate the corporate org chart. Okay, so key takeaways from today's webinar. The first thing really is the connected data side of things, and really just the fact that you are able to securely automate the way that you push your HR data and information to managers and basically anyone across the organisation that can benefit from this information. And obviously putting your HR data into a format that is very, very easy to understand and to consume. Also too, the single view of the organisation. So a lot of organisations that I have worked with, if they don't have an automated tool like this, what they'll end up with usually is a bunch of rogue charts across the organisation that different departments keep up to date. Obviously spend a lot of time doing so. But the key thing there is the fact that there is no one view of the entire organisation, which is very important. And also to, once again, that easy to consume format of your HR metrics. So once again, taking the, I suppose, the perception of your HR information system as being a mysterious black box into, using this Planning at Work tool to actually share that information across the organisation in a very easy to understand and easy to consume way. And finally, the obvious restructuring advantages, the key one being the fact that because you always have the most up-to-date view of the organisation on demand, it means that you are always ready to go with that foundation, which you can then put into a sampled area to manipulate from there. So that's all we have for you today. Hope you've enjoyed the information we covered. So what I'll do is I'll just open it back up now to Ben, and if you have any questions, please, now's a good time to submit them. We can have a look at those.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, it's just in that Q&A panel, which you can get to either on the top or the bottom of your screen. All you have to do is type it in there and we'll be able to help you out. So we've got a pretty quiet audience at the moment. I think everyone's still recovering from the long weekend. I do have one question here regarding planning at work. What's the cost of it?
So the cost of planning at work is determined by how many records you're pushing into planning at work. So say, for example, if you've got your HR data on an Excel spreadsheet, for example, you can import into planning at work an unlimited amount of columns, which represents your fields. But the actual cost of the program is determined by how many rows you're pushing in. So if you've got an organisation of 1,800 or so employee positions, that would require a 2,000 level license, and that obviously has a cost associated with that. So usually the levels go up by amounts of 500 records at a time. So it really just depends on how many records you need to work with as to what the cost is. And that obviously also affects the implementation cost as well. Actually, one thing I will mention in that regard, because it is a cloud-based tool, it is a very easy tool to implement, and usually we can get this tool implemented for you within a month. So being a cloud-based enterprise tool is actually a fairly lightweight application to implement, which is also very good.
Okay, thanks for that, Grant. We've got another question here. Can you add a non-HRIS generated file to your planning at work data, for example, job catalogue details?
Absolutely. Yep, you certainly can. So you can actually import, or you're importing a CSV into Planning at Work, but you can, Planning at Work also has this concept of domains, where if you're working with a different reporting structure, such as, for example, say a cost center reporting structure or the like, you can actually have that as a separate org chart. But another good use case for that too is obviously working with other data sources, such as information from your financial system, for example, which is different to your HR the information within your HR information system. So yes, absolutely, Planning at Work can work with multiple data sources as long as that information is on a flat file of some description.
Awesome. That looks like that's all the questions we have for today. Alright, so if you do have any questions, Grant's details are on the screen. I know a lot of you probably have more specific questions than what we've covered today because we were looking at more of a general overview, so by all means get in touch. That's what we're here for. So thanks for that, Grant.
Yep, excellent. Look, thank you once again for your attendance today. And as Ben said, if you are interested in a more in-depth look at Planning at Work, I'd be more than happy to provide that to you. So have a good day, everyone, and we look forward to our next webinar.